Okay, Station 3, Cardioversion Defibrillator Setup. So, this one is starting to get a little more complicated, but the key thing here is knowing how to set up the monitors, get the pads on, and deliver a shock. We won't go into what rhythms are shockable, which need cardioversion, and which need to be paced, but what we will look at is one particular shockable rhythm and how you can help manage the equipment required to deliver a life-saving jolt. So, here are the basic steps. 1. The 3 C's. Back to the top. Call for help, CPR, get the cart. Step 2, set up the pads. Skip the nodes for now. We'll get into that later. Step 3, check the rhythm and check the pulse. Step 4, charge the box to 200 joules. Step 5, call the shock and clear the patient. Watch the crowd and hold the button to deliver the shock. Each of these are small things that you can do to help keep things efficient and safe. Another big point here is that we will be focusing on a popular, albeit specific defibrillator in use in KGH and Hotel Dieu. It's always a good idea to get an idea of where crash carts are and what they're equipped with before any trouble comes up. A code is a really bad time to be learning and going through an owner's manual. So, step 1, call for help, CPR, get the cart. This is an easy way to make sure you don't miss the big steps. If you're first on a code, make sure that you tell someone. You need help, and a cold blue is the only way to get it. Once you've done that, start compressions and start them quickly. Finally, get the cart. Again, it's a really good idea to know where this is beforehand and send someone to go get it as quickly as you can while still providing compressions. Step 2, set up the pads and skip the nodes. There are two main sets of cables in the crash cart that hook up to the defibrillator. We only need the one that connects to the pads. You won't need the 3-pronged electrodes that are also in the cart. You can get a basic rhythm, charge, and deliver a shock with only the pads. So, if you're pressed for time, which you are, just set up the pads. Peel off the sticky covers and place one pad over the right pectoral muscle just below the right clavicle, and the other on the left bilateral 5th intercostal space, or just follow the visuals as shown here. The side that plugs into the defibrillator will only go in when properly aligned. Align the angle of the cables so that they're facing away from the defibrillator, as you can see. This will line up the male and female sockets, and the plug should slide in and lock into place. Once the pads are on and attached to the machine, turn it on. There's a power button in the top right side, as shown. Give it a push. Step 3, check the rhythm and check the pulse. Again, someone will probably be telling you to set this defibrillator up, and this, like everything else, is something you should then report back that you have done. The person leading the resuscitation will want to check the patient's heart rhythm and pulse, which they won't be able to do unless the pads are on and the machine is fired up. As a quick aside here, what we're describing is called closed-loop communication, and it's something that you should really practice. The theory is that it goes something like this. Someone tells you to do something, you tell them what they told you, and that you will do it. You go and do that thing. You tell them that you have done what they asked and describe what that action was, and they come back and confirm that they know that you have done what they asked. Now this seems a little strange at first, but it's the best way to make sure that things don't get lost in a chaotic situation. So, moving on to step 4. Charge the box to 200 joules. Now this one is a bit specific because we're picking a very specific case, ventricular fibrillation in this case. That requires a certain shock, but the overall principle goes like this. You want to deliver a shock, you'll check the rhythm, see that it's VFib, and then someone will decide that you will need to shock at 200 joules, standard in this instance. The key here is to press the charge button on the upper right corner of the defibrillator. It will ask you how much you want to deliver, and it usually starts at 200, but don't take this for granted. Set the shock to 200 joules and then press charge, or enter. You'll see the charge bar climb and hear a rising pitch. Once fully charged, tell the team leader that there is a charge and call out the number of joules, and, if appropriate, tell them that you will deliver a shock. Step 5. Call the shock and clear the patient. Watch the crowd and hold the button. Now this is big. When you go to press the charge, turn away from the monitor and look at the patient. You'll instinctively want to keep looking at the monitor, but the monitor isn't going anywhere, and you need to check if there's anyone in contact with the patient. If there is, tell them to move away. Call it an all clear once everyone confirms that they are clear. Look to make sure that they are, and while looking at them, press and hold down the shock button to deliver the shock. In real life, you'll see the patient jolt. This can be jarring, so just be ready for it. Now, holding down the button is for a reason unrelated to this course, but it's good practice depending on the model of defibrillator you're using. State that the shock was delivered, and let the CPR team get right back to work. And finally, step 6, repeat. Get through 5 sets of 30 to 2 compressions and breaths, check the pulse and rhythm, and do it all over again. Either keep on with the 200 joules, or listen to the head of the team for any changes in instruction. Great work.